everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. We're gonna talk about Bitcoin and see what is going on. Let me just post this in a few different places and then we will jump in. So let me do that. Currently we're at 38.5. All right, so Bitcoin's currently trading at 38.5, and one of the things is that volume is also appears to be falling off relatively quickly. So you can see the volume is going down. Price is slowly dropping. So then the question is, what's about to come? You know, I'm not going to claim I know anything about short-term price movements. I know that the volume's been dropping here. Price is slowly going down, and you might wonder, is this the calm before the storm? Which way is the storm going to take us? Is it going to be a major move to the upside, or are we about to go back down to the low 30s? One thing interesting with Bitcoin is that when you look at weekly time frames, we really haven't moved sideways very much in a long time. Most notably, the last time we really moved sideways for a while was over here, and maybe in here ish. Okay, so we had a lot of sideways movement here that lasted from April until July. And then we had some sideways movement here that lasted from August until October. But then after that, it was mainly just straight up. We had our little sell-off here in January, back up, another sell-off, and we sort of moved sideways up here. But even then, I mean, this is still a move from 64K all the way down to 45K. I'm not sure exactly if we can say that's sideways, but regardless, we haven't been moving sideways in quite a long time. So that's why given what Bitcoin has done over the last 8 months, 9 months or something, it's getting a little too quiet. So we're going to keep an eye here, because it sort of seems like we're coming to a crossroads, and I feel like everyone sort of wonders, okay, are we about to head back up and put in these new all-time highs, which is probably not likely immediately. Or are we going to consolidate for a while, or are we going to go lower? Now, you can see the volume here spiked a lot. I mean, when we came down. But regardless, I think this is at least worth keeping an eye on, because when things get quiet like this, it usually means there's a move coming. Okay, it usually means there's a pretty big move coming. Let's go look at the 1 hour time frame. So we've been slowly bleeding here over the last few hours, but I mean, we've also been putting in slowly moving up as well. So I think this is going to be an interesting few, maybe next 24 hours or so. We're going to bounce here, or are we about to plummet down? We'll keep an eye on it, but I just wanted to note that it does seem awfully quiet in the market. Ether is sort of chilling at its at 2,700. Okay, the bull market support band's all the way down here at like 2,100, but it's chilling up here. So Ether right now, given where Bitcoin currently is, Ether is actually holding up relatively well. From the peak, Ether is down a modest 39%. Bitcoin, from its peak all the way up here, it's currently down about 41%. So Bitcoin right now is actually down more from its peak than Ethereum is, which is somewhat interesting. Note that if Bitcoin decides to kick the bucket and come down again, if it does something like that, I mean, we're going to have to look to see if Ether can hold the 20-week. Okay, so this is, this is essentially what we're looking at. So let's keep an eye on Bitcoin. Recently, it's been slowly moving up, very slowly moving up. We had a bottom over here. I mean, it went a little bit lower over here. We had a bottom, we moved up, and then came back down. We put in a higher high, but now we put in a lower high, and now we're coming to a crossroads. Okay, so you basically have to figure out. I mean, maybe you don't, because if you're not a day trader, that doesn't matter. But the argument now is, well, are we about to head back down and retest some of this stuff, maybe even 36, or are we going to bounce and see a nice move to the upside? Because, I've seen some people say that, oh, we've had a relief rally to 40K. This is to me, a relief rally is like 46K. Okay, I mean, who's getting out of bed for a $38,000 Bitcoin? So I would say I don't really consider this to be a relief rally. I mean, it doesn't mean we're not going to go down, but I don't consider this to be a relief rally. If we come up quickly, I'm going to be somewhat skeptical as to how easily it will be to hold on to that move. So, or at least sustain it anyways. So I just wanted to come on and say, hey, it's getting a little quiet in the market. A lot of times when it gets like this over the last few months, it was preceding a fairly volatile time that was coming. So, how's everyone doing? Yeah, I think a lot of people are generally unsure because, it's easy to cherry pick indicators to tell the narrative that you want to tell. If we're being completely honest, there's evidence for both cases, right? There's evidence. The bull case, I think there's a lot of evidence for the bull case. I also think there's a lot of evidence for the bear case. So I think Bitcoin right now is at a very uncertain point in its journey, more uncertain than what we've seen over the last few months. Are we going to come down and consolidate down here for a while, or are we just going to continue the rally? And I've looked at a lot of different indicators. There's some on-chain metrics that indicate that things are bullish. There's some on-chain metrics that indicate things are bearish. There's some technical indicators that indicate things are bullish. There's some technical indicators that indicate things are bearish. So I don't think that there's I don't think that there's one indicator we can just look at, because to some degree that's cherry picking. We have to look at all of the different ones, and then you have to come to your own conclusions as to where we currently are, because certainly the evidence is there for both sides. One being, well, in the grand scheme of a cycle, we've seen corrections like this before, and it didn't mean we had to go back down further. But again, on the other hand, last cycle, we never even had a 55% correction. We only had 40% corrections at the most. The last time we had a correction this size during a phase like this was back in 2013, when we had like an 80% correction. This was like an 80% correction right here, 82% or so, followed by a long lull in the market. I mean, not super long, but you're talking about from April until October, before we really and really till November, till we started putting in new all-time highs. So we go look at it today, and yeah, I mean, I think the evidence is there for both. If you guys want an update on where we are in the cycle, again, you guys know my thinking is that we were always ahead of schedule, and that coming back down for a while is certainly not a bad thing. But what I want to do, again, we'll just see where we are here, because it has been a few days. So let's take a measure move here, and then we'll just simply overlay it, and recognize that we were ahead of schedule, and that we should as I said back then, I think it's more likely than not that we come back down and consolidate for a while before heading up. Now we have come back down, and we've been consolidating for a bit. The question is are we going to come back down even more? Let me put on these different cycles here so we can look at them. So again, those are the three prior cycles as measured from the bottom. Okay, as measured from the bottom. Obviously, we also look at it from the halving. So this is as measured from the bottom. So the bullish case, for those of my bullish friends, the bullish case as well, if you think it's just going to remain on track here, then you have nothing to worry about. I don't think we're going to stay on track. Even if we do move up, I don't think we're going to be able to go to a 300K Bitcoin, by November or December. I think that's a too lofty of a projection for Bitcoin. Consolidation is not a bad thing, okay? And I think some people sort of think that it is. But regardless, if you're of the camp that it's going to peak in December, or maybe not December, but later this year, then that would be, obviously you'd be looking at this chart and saying, okay, well, this is as bad as it's going to get, and that we should just trend up. I wouldn't be so deterministic about things personally. I wouldn't be so deterministic about things, and recognize that, hey, we are above it over here, and then we came below it, and then we were above it, and then maybe we're just going to spend some time below it for a while, and then maybe we'll put in a cycle peak somewhere over here. But regardless, there is a lot of evidence for both, and I think I see a lot of people getting into arguments in chat rooms because some people are bullish and some people are bearish, and we're like, well, you're ignoring the data. For looking at all the data, there's indicators that suggest that there's evidence for both. If you look at our regression band, this is one of my favorite. So let me remove the volume here. This is one of my favorite ways to show just how crazy some of the prior moves were. If we actually had kept pace with some of these cycles, we would have already been at like 3 million a year or two ago. If the 2013 cycle, if we had followed that, we would have already been at 2 million back in December. So again, the idea of diminishing returns does not exist. Is simply people ignoring the data, and it's nothing more than people ignoring it and saying that it's going to do something different. I mean, I hope they're right. I wouldn't mind Bitcoin going to a few $1 million, or even 300K or 400K. I just don't think it's going to happen this year. Let's just be pragmatic about things. So the question becomes here, well, I mean, if it continues to come down, are we going to do something like this and then peak there? Maybe it comes out even further and it looks something like this. I don't know. We'll have to see where this next move takes us. I feel like within the next few weeks, we're going to get a lot more clarity on where Bitcoin is in its cycle, and it should help us reach a little bit more of a useful conclusion. Right now, the bull market support band is still all the way up at 44K, 44.7K, up to 48.6K. So this will be a case for the bears. So, I mean, 4-year cycle, which again, I don't believe in. Just to make that clear. But that makes the case for the bulls. This is the case for the bears. I mean, close below the 20-week. Now, if we can get back above it, if we can rally, if Bitcoin can rally here and get back above it, then game on, right? Game on. If we can get back above it, come back down, test it as support, then we're going to be off to the races, is my opinion, if that happens. I'm just not yet convinced. I'm not yet convinced that that's going to happen. If you go back to 2019, even if it does happen, by the way, it took a few weeks. You can see we came down and then we actually spent about 3 weeks going sideways before going back up to the 20-week SMA. So if we did something like that again, let's suppose that this was the first week and then we had a couple more weeks over here, then I mean we could be looking at retesting it in mid-June potentially. If we continue, if we at all emulate what 2019 did. But note that so far there have been some differences. The pullback was, I think, a little bit steeper here. But if you take a bar pattern and just sort of overlay it with the current move here, well, there are some similarities, right? There's some similarities, so we want to keep an eye on that as well. Our rainbow. Let me switch this over. So so far, this one has held up relatively well, with the idea of not going to a prior band or even the one below it. So this one peaked in the red one, the next one did not go to the red one, and it did not go to the next one. And then this one dropped down. And so far, I'd say we've had a lot more intra-cycle volatility this cycle than we had last cycle. You can see we did in fact get rejected there, and we have come back down. Now we're actually back in this band. We hit the top of this band back in 2019 at 14K. You can see how quickly the times changed because now it's all the way up 40K. Let's see, what are some other ones we can look at? We can look at the extension from the 20 week. Okay, or sorry, this is the wrong one. Let's look at the extension from the 20 week. This is this one. And I mean, I'd say it worked out pretty well in dictating the extension, right? I mean, from the 20 week SMA, everyone, we were watching this anyways, and we can note that, hey, I mean, even though it seems like every single time is different, in terms of the extension from the 20 week, it wasn't actually. It wasn't different so far. So we did in fact come back down to that, to that decreasing extension from the 20 week moving average. So each cycle has been unable to go to the prior one. So I think the question will be, well, if we do come back up like this, are we going to hit it again? At that point, though, if the 20-week SMA is like, $30,000 or $40,000, then obviously the extension from that is going to be a lot more than it was back in January. But anyways, I don't know. All right. So I think the case is there for both. I don't think that anyone really knows exactly, but I think that there is evidence to suggest that things can go either way at this point. Like always, right? Like always. Let's pull up the daily again. So you can see that we are trying to get back above that 200-day, and we have not been able to get back above it since. It's currently at 40,748. Okay, yeah, I know that options are expiring. Everyone keeps saying Bitcoin's going to pump to $50,000 by tomorrow within less than 24 hours because of this whole options expiration. I don't think it's going to work like that. Now, if Bitcoin does pump to 50K by tomorrow, I will certainly pay more attention to it. But the idea that we can know exactly where the price of Bitcoin is going to be anytime options expire is somewhat ridiculous, I think. Otherwise, the market would pretty quickly adapt to it, and it would no longer be valid. But right now, Bitcoin's trying to get back above the 200-day moving average. Now, the one way, so we were talking about this cross here. The one way that we could avoid this cross of the 50-day and the 200-day, the one way we could avoid it is if the price is able to start pumping back up. Okay, if it does that, if the price starts pumping back up, then yeah, like they're not going to touch, right? It might come back down like this, and then this one might sort of level over and then, continue on. So if the price of Bitcoin starts pumping back up, then that could be a way to avoid the cross of the 50-day and the 200-day SMA. Remember, back in 2013, they almost crossed, but they didn't quite make it here. So you can see they came relatively close after this first peak of the cycle, but they didn't actually cross. They came close to it. The 50-day came to say 95. The 200-day was at 88. They came relatively close, but it was because Bitcoin recovered and was able to get back above. It got back above the 50-day. They did not in fact end up crossing. If you go to the present time, the 50-day moving average is still quite a ways away. Okay, it's at $52,000. So for us to get back above the 50-day today, we'd be going back to $52,000. So we would need to see some type of rally like this to get back above the 50-day, and then maybe we avoid the cross of these two moving averages. So that, this is really just a follow-up. We haven't had a cross yet. and there's no guarantee we're going to have one. And even if we do have one, it would probably take several more weeks. I think right now, as I said before, it's a little quiet in the market, and I think we're probably going to have some type of move in the not so distant future. Volume's going down, volatility seems to be dropping some. It's just a matter of which way it breaks. And so, I mean, if you're a day trader, I guess you can place your bets. Our little corridor here has worked out so far relatively well. If you look at the weekly time frame, so if we look at the weekly time frame, we came down. I think we actually went slightly below it right here, but it currently is at 30K on our little corridor that we've showed here on the channel a few times. So that's where it is right now. It's at like 30K. Volume. Someone says volume's down. The price is going up. I guess it depends on your time frame. I mean, the price has been going down over the last few hours, but yeah, like it has been going up over the last few days. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments. Paul says, Ben, it seems silly to believe that something happened 2 to 3 times that it will occur again. Yeah, I think it's silly too. That's why I think we said extrapolating from a couple data points doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when you're talking about like options expiring or whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. This is why everyone has their theories, and we go with the theories and we see which ones play out. As I've said before, all models are wrong. Some are useful, and extrapolating from a few data points gives us something to talk about for sure. But yeah, I mean, we don't have 8 data points on a lot of different things to measure with, so we cannot be sure yet what is going to happen. Am I planning on creating more fundamental videos? Yeah, probably. Did you guys like the Ethereum, the what is Ethereum video? Someone says apply some Elliott wave theory to the chart. The problem with Elliott wave theory is I saw a lot of people using Elliott wave theory to just say 42K was the top, or 20K. Like it's just sort of a shifting line. So it's obviously better retroactively, but when you're in the middle of it, people always just say, well, according to Elliott wave theory, it's going to do this. I've seen people say that for years and years and years, and often they're wrong. Sure, we can take a look at the monthly. So here's the monthly chart. Can I make a head and shoulders pattern? Yeah, I think it looks something like, it's like the, how does the little shampoo bottle look? Maybe something like this. Head. I don't know why you want me to draw head and shoulders, but head and shoulders. I hear that if you use the conditioner before the shampoo, some may refer to it as a reverse head and shoulders. All right, we'll see. Bitcoin's currently at 38.6. We'll come up in a daily close here in about 2.5 hours. So maybe we'll get some volatility around that. Someone asked, why do we use a logarithmic scale? Well, the reason we use a logarithmic scale, it's a good question if you're not familiar with them. So if you don't use a logarithmic scale, you get this. And look at this as you go along. Okay, so this is the beginning. Look at the price of Bitcoin, and then it does that. So when you're going up orders of magnitude, it makes a lot more sense to use a log scale, because otherwise it has a way of hiding what actually happened in the past. So this peak over here used to be a fairly substantial peak. But when you look at these other moves later on, it basically makes that peak look like nothing, right? So you have to zoom back in. So there's that peak, but as you go further out, you can see that peak basically just disappears completely, and you can't even see it anymore. So that's the reason, right? I mean, here's an example. Like, you can't even see that peak, and the price of Bitcoin at this point is only $1,200. And now look at this peak. Look at the peak from 2013, December 2013, and you go further out, and then that peak becomes basically nothing. And this is just the peak from 2017. And then you keep going further out, and then the peak from 2017 starts to look relatively small compared to what it looked like. So if you don't, and then you zoom out, and this is what you get. You can't even see the peak in 2011 anymore because of the linear scale. But there was a peak right around here. There was a peak, and then here was a second peak. There was actually an intermediate peak right here. So this was like, there was one peak right here as well, like that. That was the double peak cycle, and then this is the third, and then so far we're currently in the fourth cycle. So by doing it on a linear scale, you can't see anything. You switch it to a log, you see it. You actually can see the moves relatively well. So that's why we use a logarithmic scale. Otherwise, we'd just be looking at something like this, and it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense to look at. By the way, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up if you guys like the content. Definitely subscribe. Remember, we recently launched, we have 2 stake pools now. If you want to join the Avalanche stake pool, I'll put the node ID in the comments. And if you want to join the ADA stake pool, you just go to your wallet and you look for the ITC. So we now have validators running for Cardano and for Avalanche. So go earn interest. Why ITC? Into the cryptoverse. So ITC comes from into the cryptoverse. Yeah, someone says on the I know I need to open I need to start a new Cardano pool, because I think the current saturation level is 64 million, and we currently have around 31 million. But they're changing the saturation to be 32 million later on in a few months. So yeah, we'll have to start another Cardano pool to make sure we avoid getting saturated. All right, someone says, BCH says, please bring it to Ben's attention that there is a scammer going around on Instagram with 30,000 followers pretending to be him. That's good. That's a good point, BCH. So I don't use Instagram, but if you are on Instagram and you're following someone that you think is me, you should be fully aware that it is in fact not me. So I will not message you on Instagram. Also, WhatsApp. I don't use WhatsApp. So if you're talking to someone that you think is me on WhatsApp because someone said that in the comments, note that that's not me either. So there's also a lot of fake Twitter accounts and whatnot. If it's not linked in the description of the videos, then it's probably a scam. It's probably a scam. Okay, so only follow the official links that you can find in the description of my videos. If you're following someone on Twitter, on Telegram, you know, wherever, and you got there some other way, there's a really high probability that it is a scam. Sorry, I'm trying to read through the questions here. All right, let's go back and look at the 1 hour. So where currently are we? Coming back up a little bit. So we'll see if it holds. Ethereum is still chilling at 2750. Definitely some uncertainty here in the market as we figure out if we're gonna pump back up to 46K or something, or if we're about to drop. I don't know. I can't tell you guys what's gonna happen. I don't know. I think it's somewhat irrelevant in the grand scheme, but we certainly are just trying to track it. I feel like we're gonna have a move coming relatively soon, probably in the next few days. I don't think that the volatility has calmed down to the point where we will just go sideways 40K for a few months. I'm not saying that we can't ultimately end up there, but I just feel like there's so much money moving around right now in the space that the idea that it just stays at 40K for a few months without making any sort of major move back to the downside or back up to the upside seems relatively unlikely. And when I say 40K, I mean 38K, 39K, same thing. I mean, we're at 38,796 now, but it's a rounding error, right? I mean, we're basically right at 40K. Yeah, guys, I'll tell you now again, if you're leverage trading all the time because you're following someone shilling you their leverage trading link, there's a good chance they're making a lot more money on commissions off your leverage trading than they are on anything else. So be really careful. Be really careful with leverage trading, and I'm just being honest with you guys. Be really careful with it because there are some ulterior motives there to get you to use those affiliate links. That's why we don't promote that here. You will not see me promote it. Be really careful with leverage trading. I do not recommend doing it. The opportunity cost is really high. If you think Bitcoin's going to go to 100K, and let's say you gamble one of your Bitcoins that it's going to go to 100K, but instead of going straight to 100K, imagine it drops first and then goes to 100K, and you lose your Bitcoin, then the opportunity cost on that is really high. And so it's very risky, and I do not recommend anyone do that. ITC is just Into the Cryptoverse. It's the acronym for Into the Cryptoverse, because I usually just say, hey, welcome back to thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. How do you find the log scale? You just click log. All right, at a crossroads for sure. Let's see, what else do you guys want to talk about? Probably not going to stay on too long. I just wanted to come in and give just a brief update. Make sure you guys subscribe if you guys like the content. We do have a Telegram channel. I will post it here for you guys if you want to join. Actually, we're almost at 42,000 people, so if a handful of you guys click that link, we'll actually be at 42,000. Remember, I will not message you first. So if you join and someone messages you pretending to be me, just remember it is not me. Thanks for the note, Wesley. I don't know why. I don't get why people ask how much money other people have. There's some people that like to say it. I think it's kind of obnoxious. All right, let's see. We're back at 38.8. Let's go maybe over to the 4-hour chart and see what it looks like. I know some of you guys like the 4-hour chart. Looks like we're almost back to 39. We're right at, and we just started a new 4-hour about an hour and a half ago. We're currently at 38,997, or sorry, 977. But regardless, my guess is that sometime within the next few days, we get some type of move in either direction. It's hard to imagine it's just going sideways forever. So naturally, that's probably what we will do. But anyways, once I have enough, I have a microphone. See, microphone. Everyone thinks I don't have a microphone. Maybe it's not working correctly, but I do have a microphone. How come the total market cap hasn't changed much? I mean, I think it has, right? I don't know what your time frame is, but it has changed. I mean, here's the total market cap. It's dropped from, about 2.5 trillion. Now it's currently all the way down at 1.68 trillion. So I mean, it has taken a pretty big hit here. I mean, from where we peaked at, way back over here, it's dropped around 32%. So I mean, that is a pretty substantial drop. So the market cap did take a pretty big hit. And I mean, if you're talking about a daily time frame, it could just be that some coins are holding up better than others. And so, I mean, Bitcoin's only down. I mean, it's not even down that much, right? It's not really down. Not if you're just looking at, say, like the daily time frame. In fact, over the last 24 hours, Bitcoin is actually up 0.4%. So maybe that'll answer your question. The reason why the market cap hasn't gone down over the last day, well, is because the price of Bitcoin has remained relatively stagnant. I mean, it's moved up to 40K, a little over 40K. It's gone down to 38K, but more or less it's just been between 38 to 40K. Pretty much range bound. That's why the market cap hasn't changed much in the last day. What kind of work did I do as an engineer? I mainly worked in computational material science. Microphone closer. You want me to move the mic closer? I'll move it closer. Maybe it sounds better. The mic's really close now. Does that sound better? I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to hold it right there. I can try to maybe move the microphone closer. I don't know. We'll try to get it a little bit closer. All right, we're at 39.1. Why do I do a live show instead of a regular video? Well, we posted a regular video earlier, and I was just going to answer some questions that people had. Is the 50K pump scenario realistic? You know, everyone, I've seen a lot of people calling for a 50K Bitcoin by tomorrow. Color me skeptical. Color me skeptical. I mean, I do believe Bitcoin will go to 100K this cycle, but a 50K by tomorrow? Let's just say if Bitcoin goes to 50K by tomorrow, I will definitely be listening a little bit more to those predictions, because that represents basically a 30%, a move about 28-29% to the upside from the current prices. So that would be a pretty substantial move. Is the $7 to $9 ADA still possible? Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I just think it's going to take us a while to get there. I don't expect us to go there this month. I don't expect us to go there this year. But I do think it is possible. I do. Someone says we did a 50% drop in a day. Why not a 30% pump? Well, a lot of times, and this goes for not just Bitcoin, but markets can move down a lot quicker than they can move up. Because of that fear, people just sort of hit the panic sell button. Yeah, so I think, generally speaking, markets can move down a lot quicker than they can go up. All right, guys. Well, I think we'll wrap it up. Hopefully we'll see some type of reconciliation with where Bitcoin's headed in the short term relatively soon. Seems like something's coming. We'll just see if that's a move to the upside or the downside. But if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. And I'll post the Telegram channel if you guys want. Remember, if you want to join the Avalanche stake pool, we just launched it, by the way. You can check that out, and I will post that in the chat. Make sure you guys subscribe and click the alerts. See you guys next time. Bye.